One of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. You see stuff on Jerry Springer and stuff like that, and you're like, that's not real. Those guys are just making it up. Well, apparently, 72-year-old Pearl has decided to have a child with her 26-year-old grandson.
What?
That's right. The story is uncomfortable as a sex nightmare about one of your relatives. Meet 72-year-old Pearl of Indiana and her 26-year-old biological grandson Phil. They are in love, and they're having a child together via a surrogate.
Yeah, but see,
All right,
they're
you're
doing
gonna have to link us.
Are they doing it with the eggs fertilization, right? They're not actually having sexual intercourse.
Yes, they are. They're doing it that way because she is physically unable to carry a child at 72. Pearl Carter is positively glowing with joy. She has a handsome new boyfriend, is enjoying an active sex life after many years of celibacy, and amazingly is prepared to become a mother again.
I mean, I got to ask the obvious question first. All right. What about her hip? How good is her hips? What's the strength of the hips?
You guys are all freaked out. I'm the only one that's into octogenarians, whatever they're called.
I'm just trying to see how this 26-year-old stud, he's plowing this old woman. How can her hips take it?
When you would go to some fucked up imagery like that. Like, good God, man, what is wrong with you?
I'm just saying.
You know what? I'm going worse here. It is, as G-rated as I try to keep my comments, and I'm like, well, which positions would be easiest on her hips?
I'm just saying, you gotta think. This kind of conversation had to happen. You couldn't be like, "Ooh, hey Pearl, I'm feeling kind of like a piece of steel over here." Sack,
Gosh.
I mean, they have to say, well, we gotta do it this way so it don't hurt me as bad. It's not something she could fuck like a champ with her legs at her ears anymore.
Oh
How much time do we have left?
We have about 30 minutes.
Oh, good. Okay.
That's one of the most disgusting stories I've ever seen. First of all right, it's incest, but if you get a hot cousin or something, you never know. Things go weird sometimes. I could see something like that going down, but we're talking about this guy's 72-year-old grandma. She's supposed to be serving you like hot apple pies, not lukewarm crotch on a summer's night. That's just disgusting.
I know a set of cousins that get it on.
First
They're,
cousins?
Yeah. They, so it's, I have a good friend at work, and he actually is going through a divorce. He stayed at my house for like 4 months or so. And, every Thanksgiving they're kind of like, for whatever reason, the central gathering place whenever they have the big family events. So every Thanksgiving they have like 18 or 22 people over in a real big event. And those two cousins make like a special, point of making it every year for like Thanksgiving and Christmas and all that stuff. And every year they totally get caught. And like this year it was in the garage. They were in the garage just hitting it. And my buddy walked in on them and he's like, here they go again. So yeah, that's my kissing cousin story.
Sounds like they're doing more than kissing. That's fucked up.
Yeah.
That is unfortunate.
Apparently they're in love, but they just don't want to take it to the next level because they're, cousins.
That brings up the next point. What about I think it's scientifically proven that if you have the same genes, you start getting deformities.
Well, all right. I heard something about this one time, and basically it's a higher incidence of birth defects, and in what's the word? My vocabulary just dropped like 8th grade. Abnormalities. That's the word I was looking for. So it's not like if you have a child with your brother or sister that instantly the kid's going to come out with 4 legs or anything.
I understand this, but you sent me
you're
that,
from the South. You should know about this.
Yeah.
Yeah. All of us incest down here. Incest and NASCAR. Ask me how much I like NASCAR.
I want to know how much you like incest, actually.
Wow.
You never see my family. No.
I love when it goes to that.
Do the women have Abraham Lincoln beards like you do?
I actually shaved mine off. I had a job interview the other day.
Hey, I was going to ask about your job. Didn't you start a new job?
Yeah, part-time one.
Yeah. Tell people about that. Any interesting stories yet?
Well,
So first of all, what do you do?
Well, I'm a 911 dispatch operator.
That's cool. So that you must have like interesting things roll in every hour.
Well, most of it's standard stuff. Like we had a break-in shooting over on Wayside where the homeowner basically killed two men breaking into his house. That was a nice one. And we also had the most interesting story I've fielded so far was a woman drove over her husband's turkey. And
Is turkey?
Yeah, it's turkey.
Literally a bird he was about to eat.
No, he had like a prize turkey. Like he takes the shows and all, and she backed over it with the car. Apparently, it got out the pen, and she wanted the ambulance called for
it. Did you deny
her? Yeah. How do you talk that down? Like, well, you probably need to take it to a veterinarian, ma'am.
Are you able to keep your cool on these calls? Because I've heard you on Xbox. Is it better at work?
Yeah, it's better at work because first off, they don't know me, and I'm just there as a guide, a medium to keep you calm. You know, like I've never got put to the test yet. Most of it's like, you know, my husband's having a heart attack. It's all right, ma'am. I'm sending an ambulance. I mean, it's like,
right. They're typically really happy to be talking to you. It's nothing to get upset about.
Yeah, I mean, most of the calls, like, you know, my husband's stomach, you know, he's having stomach pains. He can't walk, you know, maybe his shit's backed up into him and all. Most of it's just like emergency room visit type stuff. Every now and then you'll get like a robbery, which then you just say, just lock the doors. I'll send a patrol car and things like that. I only work like 3-hour shifts.
That sounds pretty depressing.
The one that defended themselves and shot the burglars, do you know how it worked out?
No.
Okay.
Same thing is, have your husband put the gun down, make sure you kind of console him, and I'll send a cop car.
Make sure that the intruders are not, you know, moving around. You don't want them testifying.
You can't tell them to, you know, put two more in the head just for good sake. Can't go ahead now. Have your husband double tap him for me. You know.
You could be like,
wait,
ma'am.
you were on the receiving end of that call?
Yeah.
The shooting? Did you hear the gunshots?
No, it already happened, and they called 911 afterwards.
Wow.
He used a shotgun that got them both.
That sounds pretty traumatic.
The husband was having a hard time with it, like he was shaking and all. So I told the wife basically to hold him and console him and make sure the gun is unloaded and out of his reach. Because the last thing the cops want to do when they pull up is see a guy that just killed two people with a shotgun in his hands.
Yeah. I'd be like, ma'am, are the intruders, are they still moving around? Yeah, one of them is. Do you think that's a good idea? I don't know what you mean. Think about it.
I mean, you get a lot of calls. Like in a 3 or 4 hour shift, I'll probably field 100 calls, and most of them will be like, I'll send an ambulance or I have a patrol car go by.
I have a story about getting robbed. You guys want to hear it?
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right. So, it's kind of long. I hope my mic holds up. But here's the deal. I was probably like 16 years old. I'm living in Ocean City, New Jersey. Shout out to everybody. And it started off with my mom. The money was just missing from her purse. And that's all there was to it. Like, you know, she wasn't even sure she got robbed. You know, she thought she had 40, 60 bucks in her purse, and it wasn't there anymore. And whatever, you know, it passes. The next weekend, same thing happens. And then the following weekend, 3 weeks in a row now, same thing happens. So at this point, there's no doubt that, you know, money's being stolen. And my older brother and I, you know, like he came to me and he's like, "Are you stealing this money?" And I'm like, "No, you know, I had that same concern about you. I thought maybe you were the one, you know, taking our mother's money." And we both left the conversation convinced that each other were innocent, that we're not the ones who are robbing our own parents. And probably, you know, they maybe skipped a week and then we got robbed like a fourth or fifth time. And my mom started like moving it around. You know, she used to just keep her purse hung on like a kitchen chair, and she started putting it like in a kitchen cabinet or leaving the money inside a drawer. And none of these things worked. The guy would just sort of search the house and find her cash, and it was gone. And at the time, I used to sleep on the living room couch like almost every night. And whatever, I was a wacky teenager. And I had this like Velcro surfer wallet next to me on the coffee table. And we had probably been robbed, I don't know, 6 or 7 times at this point. And one of them, her purse was like left with its belongings scattered in the backyard. So it's just totally getting robbed on this. And I woke up in the morning, and my wallet was emptied and tossed on one of the other couches in the living room. And it was like, wow, that wallet was 18 inches from me. You know, he was above me while I was sleeping, stealing my money, looking at me.
Heavy sleeper much?
I guess so. So my reaction from this was to be kind of upset. And my friends and I had a game plan. It's a stupid teenager game plan. We were going to, like, tackle him and duct tape him and torture him and stuff like that. You know, maybe shave Thief in his head. But we camped out for him because he came pretty reliably on, like, Friday and Saturday nights. So we camped out in the house waiting for him to come. And he didn't come. We weren't able to stay quiet. Like, we were quiet for, like, 5 minutes, and then we just goofed off in the dark all night, and he never came. So one day, I was up super late watching ESPN Lumberjack Cutoffs. I'll never forget it, where they put, like, motorcycle engines on chainsaws. And it's about 3 a.m., and I hear this creaking on the basement steps. And it's just like creak, 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 and I'm like, oh my God, you know, and I'm on edge at this point. And I walk over to the steps quietly, and I see the guy's fingers wrapped around the door, which also squeaked as he, I don't know if he was pulling it back closed or what, but I saw the guy's hand. So I confronted him, and I pulled open the door really fast and started screaming, like every curse word I could think of. And he looked at me, his eyes went big, huge, and he fell backwards and rolled down the stairs. And so I gave chase, and I chased him out through the basement, and he ran through the backyard and down the alley. And my screaming woke up my father, and he gave chase too. And he went down the alley, but the guy had a bike stored like 2 or 3 doors over.
And there
Had a
goes
bicycle?
So
Wait, he had a bicycle or a motorcycle?
I think he said bicycle.
Yeah.
a bicycle. So is my mic okay at the moment?
Yeah, it's good.
Yes.
All right, sorry. So he had a bicycle about 2 doors down, and he hopped on that and rode away. So we called the police, and first a couple of detectives came, and then the K-9 squad came, and they were able to follow his trail for like a block or so, but they didn't catch him. They put on an APB. It didn't yield anything. But there were a couple takeaways from this whole thing for me. One, so I was like bad breath distance from this guy, and I couldn't pick him out of a lineup. I didn't stand in the actual lineup like they have on a TV show, but a detective came to me with a bunch of people who sort of fit his description. He was a skinny, light-skinned black guy, and he was short. So they had like 16 people who fit this description and asked me to pick which one. And I looked at it, and I was like, I just couldn't reliably pick out this guy. And it opened my eyes to how bad eyewitness testimony can be. Because you couldn't get a much better interaction with him than I did. I mean, we were probably face-to-face for 5 seconds, and I was only a foot and a half from him. And I still couldn't recognize him because I was just too tensed up and out of my mind. And I was like looking at the detective asking for like guidance, you know. I've like got my finger on a picture and I'm trying to read his face, like, you know, help me out here. I would more than gladly pick the guy that you think it is. But he wasn't playing that game in the slightest. You know, if I couldn't positive ID him, he didn't want anything to do with like a helped positive ID. So that was kind of neat takeaway. And eventually, like, they didn't actually notify that they caught him, but I was reading the paper. And I saw his picture and thought that was probably him. And I saw that he was arrested on something like 50 counts of burglary. And his MO fit, you know, our MO. So I think the guy got caught. And the police kind of knew who he was. As a matter of fact, when we called the police, you know, the night that I confronted him, they actually went to his house first, hoping they'd catch him on the way home, like with our stuff. So I think they eventually caught him, but that was that. But then there's more. The other thing is I had nightmares about it for like 10 years, a seriously long time. And the nightmare was always the same. I was in bed, and somebody was like creeping over me, ready to like attack me, which is not what this guy did. He was all about cash, but they were ready to get me. And in the nightmare, I would wake up slowly. So in real life, like if you were next to me, I'd be kind of like struggling, moving a little bit, but not able to get the words out. And you know how like when you're mostly asleep, you can almost control the dream, or like what happens in real life has some influence on what's happening in the dream. That's where this was. So this unable to sort of yell or deal with the problem manifested itself in the dream as being paralyzed with fear. And I would be sweating and whimpering, and it only lasted like 30 seconds or so. And then I would wake up and realize, like, I'm here and everything's cool and this and that. But not to compare myself to someone who, like, had seen military action, but I kind of get what that might be like. Like, I've had a taste of it. Because, like, on game day, I wasn't scared at all. You know, I confronted the guy. If I had caught him, I'd have taken him down. He was smaller than me. And I'd have put a hurting on him. So on game day, I was at my prime. But for 10 years, I had nightmares about this thing. And they got less frequent, you know, toward the end there. But it was
Probably
a big
could have,
deal.
like, hunted him down and beat the hell out of him, and that would have fixed the nightmares.
I used to sleep with a knife under me for quite some time, you know, just to sort of be prepared.
I got a question.
And,
Why didn't you just
yeah.
rugby kick him right in the chest?
You know, looking back, that probably would have happened. You know, like that probably would have been a good tactic. But you know, what did occur to me was to open the door and start screaming at him, and even that was kind of gratifying. He was scared to death of me, and that was kind of a cool thing. It turned out he stole the money to feed his drug habit. I think he was a heroin user, a meth user. I'm not even sure, but something that made him as unnaturally skinny as he was his drug habit, and that's why he was robbing us. So yeah, my takeaways from that whole thing were I kind of get post-traumatic stress disorder. You know, I get as in like understand it, I grok it, and next time I hear eyewitness testimony, like, oh, I saw that guy across the street, and I know it's him. You probably don't. You know, I had a better view at my guy than you did, and you'd be unusual if you really saw him that well. So there's my been robbed story.
Yeah, see, I'm having a little trouble here because I've been armed robbed 3 times and I've been shot.
Yeah, you know, I thought you'd have a better story. How much time do we have? Do you want to say that for another podcast or tell more?
We got about 20 minutes still.
What are you talking? What kind of time zone do you live in?
We
Wayne?
started about 10:15. It is 11:03 now.
So you just fail at math?
Well, it's still about 20 minutes. We talked for about 15 to 20 minutes before we started the podcast. You gotta remember that.
All right, so tell us about getting shot.
Well, I'm not gonna. I've already told that story. I'm gonna tell you about my robberies because I didn't get shot during one of the robberies.
Are these robberies that happened against you or the people that you robbed?
No, they happened against me.
Okay.
We'll leave those for another one.
The one that sticks out the most vivid because the other 2 of them were just, you know, give me your money, you know, they push me up against a car, take my money and run away. That kind of deal. The one that was most vivid was one of my first jobs I ever had. I used to work at a movie gallery when I first started school. And training night, December 18th. I remember it was December 18th. I was about 2 hours into my shift, and I was on the computer because they had like computer training manuals that you had to go through after you got hired, you know, to kind of brush you up and kind of get you used to the store policies. I was doing that. That's all I had to do that first night. I didn't have to check movies in, clean shelves or anything like that. I had to do my training manual. Well, about 10 o'clock at night, 3 black guys come in. One has a German Luger. That's the first thing I noticed.
Damn.
He went old school.
It's hardcore.
He went old school. Okay.
He was the ringleader. He had like a red sash over his face and like a green jacket.
I thought you were
I'm
going
gonna
to
rob somebody with a
like
Mosin
his
Nagant.
SS. Dude, the black SS came to your house.
No,
Did the other guy have an Elmer Fudd musket by chance?
No. The other guys had 38 specials. They had little stub-nosed 38, little Saturday night specials. But the lead guy, the one that did all the talking and ordering, he had a German Luger. It stood out to me because when I see them, I didn't really believe it was happening because this is the first time I've been robbed. And the first was usually when it stands out anyway. But he comes in, I think he's playing. I seriously do. Who comes and robs you with a fucking German Luger?
Excuse me, sir. You'll have to come back with a Glock.
I thought it was like a water gun or something. Like people, like because they came in like kids, like they were like bouncing, like come on, give me some money, you know. And then, you know, I'm not trying to stereotype here, but You ever see like a black gangbanger on TV, like standing in front of an apartment complex? That's how these guys acted. And basically, they took us right into the back room. The store we were in, it wasn't very big. It was basically like a big rectangle, and on the upper right hand corner, they had like an office section with 2 bathrooms, a closet, and like a manager's office. But the manager's office had the safe in, and they basically took me into the bathroom and had me get down on my knees, and the guy, basically had his 38.
Oh yeah, I like where this is going.
I gotta go.
I gotta stay. Tell me more, Wings.
I wasn't
So you're
thinking.
down on your knees in the bathroom.
I wasn't thinking very clearly at all because I wasn't afraid of guns. I'd been around.
It was
guns
your
most
first
of my
time.
life. Yeah. So the first thing I do is go right into my pockets. Here, you want the keys?
How big was it?
What? It's a 38
gun.
special.
The gun. What else?
Little 6-shooter, 38 special.
All right, go ahead, Wings.
But I'm not. Normally, you wouldn't want to go into your pockets with a guy with a gun to your head. I didn't know if it was loaded or not. I was kind of just, I'm just going to do what they tell me. I don't give a fuck about this company's money. Here, you need me to help you take it out to the car with you. I don't want to strain your back. But so first thing I do is I go in my pocket and I grab the register key because I had a register key to my register and it had like $400 in it, something like that. Sorted bills. Because the company at that time didn't have like a drop money policy. Generally, if you work in like a retail or a restaurant type environment, you have to drop your money after it gets so many things. Like you get a $100 bill, you have to drop it in the safe. Well, Movie Gallery at that time didn't have that kind of policy. So I figured he'd want that kind of money because there was probably $400 in my register.
Mm-hmm.
They'd have one of them with. They went straight to the safe, which is stupid. But I was just going on. It starts to sink in what's happening, and I'm thinking I actually might die here. And at the time, I had forgotten my pocket knife because I didn't want to bring my pocket knife to me to work because it was one of my first jobs.
Yeah, I'm sure your pocket knife would have been fine against 2 snub-nosed 38s and a Ruger or Luger.
Well, I was getting to the point where I was fearing for my life. Like, these guys might actually kill us because I'm hearing in the background, open that safe or I'll blow your fucking brains out and shit like that. The main guy, he was ruthless. The other 2 guys were scared, especially the guy holding me up. The guy holding me up had like a green, like, Hutch-type jacket. Looked like a Vietnam vet kind of guy, but he was a black guy, and he had a red sash over his face as well.
Did he have an epic beard?
No.
Then he's no Hutch, baby.
No.
Go ahead, please.
Because I was wanting my knife bad. It was like, I'm not going to try this bare hand. And, because I have no fighting skills whatsoever. I have no M&A experience. I need a weapon.
Weapons are better than MMA anyway.
Well, needless to say, everything worked out. They got the money, which they got like $300 worth out the safe, and they bounced out the back door. But that one always stuck with me. But I never had nightmares about it for some reason.
You don't know. I mean, I've had other things. I've lost fights pretty ruthlessly. It's not my only traumatic experience, but
And there goes his mic.
I felt like I came out.
Yeah,
I love his mic.
But that was the one.
Your mic cut out, Woody.
Oh, great story.
That is epic.
Best story ever.
And
Moving on.
let's go to the second one, though. The second one, I was actually working at Domino's Pizza. And we had certain parts of town we didn't go to at night, but we went to in the daytime. And during the daytime, you didn't think you was going to get robbed. Well, as being a police delivery boy, you only carry $20 worth on you at one time, given whatever money you get on your run. So if you catch a guy at the end of 4 runs, he might have $200 on him, maybe. But at that point, I went to it was Cherry Hill Apartment Complex. You know it's bad right there. The place is fenced in. You ever seen the movie Candyman?
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like an apartment complex like that, but not so grand scale. It's like a 3-story apartment complex. And it has a parking lot, and, they got graffiti on the walls and shit. Well, a guy hits me with a fucking 12-gauge sawed-off in the parking lot.
Damn.
He puts me on the ground. I got my head skinned up, and he takes my money. He just goes through my pants and shit. And then they run away. So I basically go back in there with an empty bag, and I'm like, yeah, we're not going back to Cherry Hill anymore.
Wow. You know, I'm seeing a sign about